רחמים שוכן במרומים המסם נוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה.
I'd like to reiterate the welcome by our chair to our very honoured guests and dignitaries, and note how special it is for us as a community to have each and every one of you with us this afternoon. The sheer numbers that have attended are testament to the significance to us all of the Holocaust, remembering and memorialising, as well as educating for the future. It is a huge honour and privilege for us to have Mrs. Marla Tribich, who has addressed us this afternoon. Marla, you have been an ongoing friend, wise counsel to me and to so many in our community. We welcome you back. We thank you for sharing your extraordinary story, as well as for your dedication and devotion to your ongoing teaching of the Holocaust to the next generation. We are indebted, and I wish to thank our dear friends and generous sponsors, to Sandra and Ronnie Lask, to Colin and Jackie Edelman, to Elaine and Stephen Elton, and to Helen and Elroy Dimson. Thank you so much for ensuring and enabling this project to come to fruition. We also want to express our gratitude, as already been stated, to Susanna Simmons for creating this beautiful monument, which will be a permanent memorial and will ensure that the memories of the Holocaust remain firmly in our minds for years ahead. I want to express on behalf of the community, our deep appreciation to Mr. Alan Tunkel for organising this magnificent afternoon, the programme, the monument, and so much more. Thank you, Alan, from the bottom of our hearts. Friends, we currently find ourselves in shuls across the world, reading from the Torah the portion, the story that relates to the exile and the exodus from Egypt. The gradual enslavement, persecution and subjugation of our people in Egypt, which culminated with a decree to murder every Jewish male child. Every year, friends, when I read that story in the synagogue, it sends shudders down my spine, as one cannot help but see striking similarities with a final solution, as their crime in Egypt, as with the Holocaust, was simply because they were deemed to be different, simply because they were Jewish. Just 80 years ago, the attempted final solution was invoked. It began with a pernicious and gradual erosion of the rights and the status of Jews in Germany, where my family came from. And it ended in the likes of Auschwitz, Treblinka, Bergen-Belsen, and so many more. But the Holocaust did not happen overnight, as we are all too aware. It didn't start in the camps. It started years earlier, and it could not have taken place without the cooperation and collaboration of normal everyday people from the most cultured, well-educated society who were complicit. And friends, that for me is the most frightening thing. Let me share with you one story that happened in the immediate aftermath of the Holocaust. Relates to a famous historian. His name was Yehuda Bauer. He was a Holocaust survivor and historian, and he moved to Israel. But he wanted to go back, and he went back. And he revisited Auschwitz. And his mission was that, friends, he wanted to find one of the railway workers. One of the workers that had been there at the time when he was in Auschwitz. And he looks, and after a few days, bingo, he finds a signal worker from the railway and he asks him a very simple question. What did you do during the war? And he said to him, I was only the signalman. Bauer said to him, you were only the signalman? What did you do? He said, I signaled to the SS guard in the guard tower. Bauer was now fuming. He said, so you only were the signal worker. And you know the guard in the tower, his only job was to keep the camp commander ready for the incoming train. And the SS guards, his job was only to open the door and to scream rouse to the Jews to get out of the train. And the next guard, his only job was to divide and separate the families for the first and last time. And the next guard, his job was to stand next to Mengele and decide which line the families went in. And the next SS guard, the only thing he did is push the Jews into the gas chambers. And finally, the last guard, the only job that he had to do was to drop in the cyclone beam. Said Bauer, it's true, you could not have stopped the Holocaust, but you could have changed a green light to a red light. And that would have delayed one train. And one train from Hungary wouldn't have made it here. And that would have saved 7,800 people's lives. And therefore, friends, I think there are two lessons, two insights that I want to share with you. There is so much, as we've already heard. The first is that we are all entrusted to recall that anti-Semitism, the world's oldest hatred, dates back far before the Holocaust, all the way back to biblical times. And despite the Holocaust, regrettably, it still festers, is virulent, and grows to this day. The numbers of anti-Semitic incidents is growing, and it is simply frightening. And therefore it behooves each and every one of us to remember and ensure that others do likewise. And for that reason, we recall annually, when it comes to Passover, not just the freedom as a result of leaving Egypt, but we also recall the slavery. Because as Rabbi Sachs put it so beautifully, memory is the guardian of liberty. The second lesson for us to take away is that the Holocaust, as we've already heard, did not start in the death camps. It started in the streets. It started in the businesses. It started in the schools. It started in the arts. It started in the university. It started with the judiciary. It started the day that anti-Semitism remained unchallenged by those who heard it, by those who saw it, by those who witnessed it. Every single person has an individual and a collective responsibility to stand up to bigotry, racism, anti-Semitism, and discrimination in any shape or form. What starts with the Jews does not end with the Jews. We have always been that canary in the coal mine. The Holocaust is not just a matter of us mourning the past, though that we must do, but it is about us learning from the past for our collective future. As Yehuda Bauer demonstrated, every person's actions count, and the repercussions of our actions, or perhaps more importantly, our inactions, can be devastating. And therefore, friends, today we memorialize and mourn the 6 million that were murdered in the Holocaust. We remember and we pay tribute to the survivors and that dedicated their lives to ensure the lessons of the past are learned for the future. We know that whilst we cannot bring the dead back to life, we can ensure their memories live on and their deaths were not in vain. And so as we dedicate this memorial, we commit ourselves to one simple act, and that is Yizkor. We will remember. May the souls of the victims be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Tehei neshama tzur b'tzur chayim. Amen.
Rachamim שוכן במרומים. עמסי מלוכה נכונה על כנפי השכינה.